Yo, 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 it's your friend Dinner Doc, and you know you've had this happen, right? You're zooming around the castle, making it happen, and then suddenly you're doing Hellfire because reasons, right? Not fun. So let's figure out why this is happening here. And to do that, we really need to understand how special inputs work in SotN, or special move inputs work in SotN. So how would we describe them, right? Like, is it a fighting game move? Do we need the precision of a Formula One car? Or like a trombone? I don't know. Anyways, so let's explore that and all more in this video. And if this video was sponsored, it'd be sponsored by Talic because he did a lot of work making this happen and giving me a ton of insights into the game that I had no idea on. So shoutouts to him for all this stuff. So thank your boy Talic for this. And let's look at the summary. So we're going to first look at how strict are special moves. We'll look at the timing within special moves, like how long do I have to put inputs in, and then we'll look at how different special moves interact with each other. So that's how we're going to break it down, this bad boy, and let's take it from there. Okay, so you know the wing smash input, a tale as old as time, the 3/4 circle forward, or from forward back, or no, from up and then down to forward. It's good times. The like it'd be easy to call this a fighting game move, and it wouldn't be wrong, right? Like a lot of grapplers in fighting games use like big sweeping motions, like Zangief and stuff like that. T-Hawk slamming some guy into the ground right now. He's a grappler. So yeah, like it's like a fighting game, right? But if we were to put this input into SotN, would we get a wing smash? Would it matter? Turns out it's kind of like a fighting game input because certainly you see the movements here, like this is what a fighting game input looks like, right? But at the same time, SotN doesn't really behave like a lot of fighting games, especially modern ones. So this is an example from Street Fighter 4 here. So you see on the left-hand side, we've got a like a back to forward motion here. So a like a 180 here. And for Street Fighter, if you're to push down, back, down, and forward, it would count it as if you went the full semicircle around, including the diagonals. This is a concept called input approximation. So the game has shortcuts that allow you to pull out moves faster than potentially by putting all the directions down there, or to provide some sort of benefit rather than pushing all the buttons, right? Like maybe you go down to forward and you also hit the attack on like same-ish frames. You don't walk us forward. There's all sorts of situations you could look at there. But anyways, what they've done is they've made the input potentially easier for players by removing some of the requirements for doing the move. And the games don't tell you this. So there's a number of examples. It gets as I did some research into this, and again, Talic's helped with a bunch of it. The input approximation went from like Street Fighter 1 being very strict, with maybe just like negative edging, which don't worry about it. And as it went further, you got more you had more abilities or the game gave you more opportunities to use approximate inputs rather than the strict inputs. So like in Street Fighter 2, if you were to do a pile driver with the Zangief, you can just do the cardinal directions, so up, down, left, right. Or up, right, down, left to do a circle. You know what I'm talking about. That continued as time went on. I believe some of that went back a bit just to avoid accidental inputs. But SotN has none of that, all right? The way to think about the wing smash here is that when you start the motion here, it's almost like a timer's going down or like a ticker's going down. And it's counting every single direction. And if you don't have all of them, it says, get out of town, you haven't done it. So there's no input approximation. So SotN, although you could absolutely say this is a fighting game move, and it totally is, but it doesn't behave like all fighting games, especially fighting games of its time, and it requires precision. So in that respect, it's really more like the Formula One car in some aspects, where like, if you were to, try to do some input approximation on a Formula One car, you're probably dead. Because those things are hell of a fast and they're unforgiving, right? So there's literally in SotN no input approximation in the engine whatsoever, so it won't work. And although it certainly is a fighting game input in terms of like what the game wants us to do, it doesn't always behave like a fighting game. We need to know the intricacies from that. So what we've learned here are that SotN special move inputs are strict, actions have no input leniency, right? SotN's fighting game inputs are largely a product of its time, and modern games have increasingly made inputs more forgiving. So that's all we need to know for now. Let's keep it going. Timing, guys. So, you know the drill here. Dark Metamorphosis, the bane of my existence. I always accidentally press up and get a Dark Metamorphosis. So, how much time do I have between pressing each input in this chain? And it doesn't matter. So, fun fact, it might. So, the timing for spell inputs, and we'll get to the few exceptions as we go here. So, the timing for spell inputs is that you have a 20 frame window from the input, or from one input to the next, including the frame that the input started on. I'll explain that more in a moment. But for comparison, Street Fighter V has a 8 to 12 frame window depending on the move. So in some cases, SotN's timing is double what you would get in some modern fighting games. And I haven't done as much research into this for the earlier games, but I imagine it's either the same or the earlier games are probably a bit more strict, especially Street Fighter 1. So yeah, you've got a ton of time compared to fighting games. Now, so what I said I'd get back to in terms of including the frame that the input is started here that I'm pointing at, is that SotN doesn't want the player to do two inputs at once. In most cases, or each input needs its own frame. So what happens is, on the first frame when I hit the input, it starts counting 20 frames, including the frame that I hit the input on. So what that means is that you effectively have 19 frames to press the next input after the last. So from 4 or from back to up and back, you'd have effectively 19 frames to make that transition. That's a lot of time, right? Like, look at this. Like, how much time is that, right? Well, let's find out. So SotN runs essentially 60 frames a second, and so you're getting about one frame being about 100th and over a half of a second, or 100th and a half a 100th of a second, and then that boils down to 19 frames being 0.32 seconds, which is about a third of a second, and that's a lot of time. So for Dark Metamorphosis here, we get 95 frames in total to be able to do this. Over a second and a half. That's a ton of time. Now, to be fair, when we're doing this, it's never going to be task perfect. We're never going to get that time window, right? But we'll get a pretty strong one, right? Like, the amount of time it takes to go this to this, that was not a second, right? Like, this is quick, right? It's like a quarter of a second I'm doing the whole thing, and then hitting the last button attack to get the spell to actually come out, right? So it's a huge amount of time you have, especially when you compare it to fighting games and how they work. So if you guessed 95 frames, you win, but otherwise, let's keep her going here with some other timing inputs. So gravity jumps are a bit of a shorter frame. So instead of 20, you get 15 frames, or from 19, you get effectively 15 frames. So about a quarter of a second between each input. And there's likely a reason for this. So with gravity jumps, you only have 3 inputs. And because you're likely jumping around and occasionally hitting up and down eventually anyways, I know I'm very guilty of that, then the game designers likely made it a bit more lenient in order to prevent accidental inputs from happening, right? So in this case, it's actually not a bad thing that the window is potentially smaller, because we don't get those gravity jumps that we may not want. And then the other note is for charge time for Tetris Spirit, it's 32 frames. So you have to hold up for 32 frames before you do the rest of the motion. Now, 32 frames is the minimum. There is no maximum. You can hold up for as long as you want. And it's all good. So there's no maximum. There's just a minimum. And 32 frames is that minimum. The last thing I want to note here, and I should have wrote this down, was that for both of these inputs, typically the game engine, how it works without getting too complicated, is that you should generally get Alucard into neutral, which is not moving, before starting a number of these inputs here. Specifically these two, because it messes up with some of the timing. So you'll be best served by making sure that Alucard, at least for one frame, has come to a complete stop, and then doing the input from there. So what we learned is that SotN's special move inputs are lenient compared to many fighting games. Inputs do not need to be rushed. So there's a bit of a duality here, right? In one way, the inputs are very strict, right? In terms of there's no input approximation. You must hit every direction and every input that the game wants you to do. And it's slow, and what we can take from this is that slow and precise is better than fast and inaccurate. That's how this bad boy works here. And I just realized I promised you a trombone and didn't even talk about it. Where's the trombone? Yes, the trombone is here. So it doesn't want you to put two inputs at once in most cases on the same frame. It wants each input to have its own frame. And that's what I meant by the trombone, right? Because you can't play two notes at the same time on a trombone. If you do, you probably, need to get like some sort of musical award, like a Grammy or some shit. All right. So that's what we've learned. If we're slow and we're precise, we're more likely to get the input to come out rather than us being fast and trying to rush it and then potentially missing parts of the input and then having a bad time when our spell fails. Okay, so let's go back to the wing smash here, right? So this is the full deal here, right? You hold X, you do a whole bunch of motions, and then you release X, and you get a wing smash here, right? All good stuff that we know. What happens if I start throwing Echo of Bat in at the same time? So imagine at the same time I'm hitting some of these things, I'm also hitting Echo of Bat here. Turns out it's good. You can use other inputs while you're doing special moves. And this usually includes Fire of Bat, which I think is really cool here. So let's take a look here for a second. Let's bring this shit up. This is fun. So we've got our friend Alucard here. And if we do this, look at him, he's orange! Yo, he's like a Dorito, he's orange! So all I'm doing is, when I'm letting go of X, I'm also pressing square. It's essentially starting Fire of Bat, and then it's being canceled by the wing smash. Whoops, I just canceled it with when I transform. And now I'm getting like the Fire of Smash here. Now, unfortunately, there's no practical application for this. I did check, and it doesn't deal fire damage, unfortunately, and it does cost the MP of both the wing smash and Fire of Bat. So unfortunate from there, but it's still a cool party trick, right? Bring it out with friends. Anyways, you know the drill here, right? What this means is that you can use other inputs in between special move inputs and still get the special move to come out. So let's take a quick example of this bad boy here. So I'm going to show you something from Street Fighter V. And what you're going to see here is a Dragon Punch into a special. So let me just bring this up here for a moment here. There we go. Ryu's going to send him, Guile, to go home and be a family man. One more time. Dragon Punch, special. Right away gets to come out. Guile doesn't have a chance to do anything about it. Okay, so let's stop that for a moment. So what's happening there? Let's take a look at the bottom right here. So the Dragon Punch input is forward, down, and then down, forward, right? That's all good. I always screwed it up when I was a kid. I can never get it to work, right? And the inputs for the super, for the fireball, are to do two fireball inputs. So down, down, forward, and then forward, right? You probably know that's like the most, it's got to be the most famous fighting game input. So what's happening here is that we're going to use two inputs from the Dragon Punch to count as the first fireball input. So once we unleash the Dragon Punch, we then just press forward, and then we do the down, down, forward to forward, and then attack. And the game counts these two green directions here for both moves. It doesn't say, oh, you did the Dragon Punch, okay, let's clear the room, clear the plate, and you got to start all over again if you're going to do something else. It actually looks back and counts it. When we hit the attack button here to unleash the special move, it just looks backwards and said, did you do the two quarter circles forward? And if you did, I'm going to put the special move out there. So in fighting games, it also doesn't have this special move exclusivity, and it's fun because it's also in SotN too. Like we just kind of saw with the Fire of Smash there. And I want to show another example with Richter. So I'm going to bring up an example from, this is DB's world record run for glitchless in the beginning of the game here. Here we go. This should be coming up now, hopefully. No, hold on, let me try this again. Please find it. It doesn't like it. Here we go. Okay, great. Awesome. Okay, so this is the intro, right? Now, for Rando players, this intro is going to look a bit different because in glitchless, they don't need to worry about getting 42 hearts and stuff like that. But we do need to worry about getting a few things. So what's going on here is that Richter here, our lad, is going to try to get this cross, and we're going to succeed. So we're at the end of a blade dash, right? The blade dash ends, we pick up the cross. Wonderful. We want that bad boy, right? Now, we're going to start another blade dash. But here's the problem, right? If we just blade dash all the way to the end, for spacing reasons, we're going to run into a bit of a problem. We're not going to get some of the stuff that we want. So for that purpose, we need to gain a little bit of space. And conveniently, the amount of space that works for us is the length of this ledge. Now, we don't want to walk to the end of the ledge because walking is slow, right? So what ends up happening here is we're going to do a slide. So a slide is fun, right? The slide is going to shoot us forward. And then watch this here, okay? So we're at the end of the slide. So in this frame, Richter's slide is canceled because Richter gets to the end of the ledge. Richter doesn't maintain a slide falling off of a ledge, right? So Richter's back to being, just regular old Richter here, right? And then, like a frame later, we're already in to the blade dash. Shut the front door. How does this work, right? Dinner dog, you just told me inputs had to be on different frames. Cheater exposed, right? Wrong. It's all good. Because what's happened here is the same thing that just happened in our last example here. So let me bring this up. So here's the blade dash, right? Up, down, down, forward, and attack. And the slide is just down and jump. And I'm sure you can see where this is going here, right? So we can do both at the same time. So the DB would be starting the blade dash, so up and down. While down is being pressed, we have 19 frames to get to the down forward part of the blade dash, right? Again, 19 frames is a long time, right? All DB needs to do while pressing down to initiate the slide is hit X. That's it. And then so that initiates the slide, sends Richter flying forward, at least till Richter gets to the edge. And then once Richter starts falling, Richter's now able to start another special move, and then you just continue with the down forward, and then attack. And then you've got the blade dash going out again. So it's very achievable. You've got such a long period of time here to be able to do this. You've got a third of a second. And I know it doesn't sound like a lot of time, but it totally is. Like, I had a buddy, or me and a buddy, we used to play Guild Wars. And he would be able to use skills to interrupt other skills. And he could reliably react to very quick skills. Like he could react to half-second skills and use his skill to cancel it. He could react to quarter-second skills with a bit of buffering. It's totally doable. And in this case, we're not even making many decisions. It's mostly muscle memory, right? We're just adding X to the equation, and then we're going from there. And we're pretty much good to go. So that's all how that works there. And then, like, as the slide is going, right, then DB can even, like, do the down to forward during the slide and then just wait to press attack. He'd know it better than I do. Rasha and Ben would even know it even probably better than anyone else because those guys are beasts. Yo, Ben, if you're watching this, come back. Come back to us, Ben. We need you. Play randomizer. Please just kick the shit out of me. I would definitely appreciate it. So yeah, that's how that works there with Richter. And there's a number of ways that works through the game. In particular, I want to take a look at grounded diagonal gravity jumps. So this is where it's going to be more applicable to randomizer because we love to use this bad boy. So let's look at just gravity or angled gravity jumps in themselves. So what are the rules here, right? So what the game wants to get a diagonal gravity jump is it wants you to be pressing a direction when the jump button is pressed, right? So left or right. So that seems pretty easy, right? Just hold left and press jump at the end in the 15 frame window and you're fine, right? However, what the game doesn't want you to do is it doesn't want Alucard to be walking. It doesn't consider the input chain if Alucard is walking. And again, this is probably by design, right? Like you don't want to be just like randomly walking and suddenly like you're doing a gravity jump, right? Like the designers probably didn't want that to be the case. Again, that's why walking cancels a lot of this stuff here. So with that being said, right, the diagonal gravity jumps in the air, they work because Alucard can't walk in the air, right? Like you do have air control, but it's not the same as walking, right? You got to have your feet planted on the ground to walk. That's a life pro tip for you there. So to do the diagonal gravity jump, it's just down, up, and X, and then you hold either, or you hold / press either like left or right, and you're not walking. That's how that works here. So the reason why the diagonal gravity jump from the ground works is just like our previous example, where input or special move inputs are not exclusive. So we press the down up, And then we've essentially met the first two requirements of the gravity jump, all right? The last thing we need to do is hit X. We have 15 frames or a quarter of a second to do that. So what we can do is press or hold down and press a direction, or both at the same time, like down and left or down and right. And the reason we're doing this is because pressing down causes Alucard when he's on the ground to crouch. Can Alucard walk while Alucard is crouched? No, he can't, right? The Alucard does not have a crawl animation. So by holding down, Alucard is stuck in place, which then allows us to press either left or right, preventing Alucard from walking, but enabling us to be pressing a direction so that when we hit X to perform the jump, we are both not walking and pressing a left or right direction, so thus we get the angled gravity jump. It's a thing of beauty. So this input exclusivity not being a thing in SotN is the piece that allows this to happen, and it's a very cool feature, and we enjoy it. Awesome. So what have we learned here? SotN special moves inputs are not exclusive. An action can be taken in the middle of performing the input for a separate action, provided that the frame window to perform the first action is not exceeded. Good stuff. So if we think for a moment back to the first thing that we looked at in this video, like why the hell am I getting random hellfire? It's probably because of this, right? You're likely doing a bunch of things and then you happen to put in hellfire, even if it's not sequential, but within its frame window, which again, as we've seen, is pretty long, then you were able to get the move out even if you were doing other things. As long as you meet the requirement for the move, then you're good. And most of them are just like Alucard is on the ground. The only, I'd say, like two exceptions are Soul Steal and Dark Metamorphosis can't be done from a crouch because Alucard, or there is no down input on those, so a crouch will not work in that. The game essentially says, no, you can't be in this state to perform the move. But all the other ones, it seems that you can. Okay, friends, so we've learned a lot in this video. This has been really good. So what do we do if we want to learn more or do other cool things? So the first thing I'd recommend is the SotN Speedrun Wiki. All these things are going to be in the description. So a lot of what Talic was helping me out with is his work that he's put into this wiki. He doesn't own the wiki, but he's put a lot of work into it. He's got all of the inputs or special move inputs accurately put into to the wiki. It has a lot of articles on some of the speed runs, how each character plays, so like Alucard, Richter, and Maria. It's very cool stuff. You should check it out as a SotN player. Now, if you want to know more about fighting game inputs, especially like this input approximation stuff, so JM Croft's video that I'm going to link to, which came out very recently, talks about fighting in-game inputs for Street Fighter, in particular Street Fighter 5, and talking about how like it's been the case for previous games and how you should know them for the upcoming Street Fighter 6. And then there's a website called Street Fighter Diff, which is the section I'm going to send you to, talks about every character and every combination of inputs you could do to get the special move to come out, like all their approximations in frame windows and such. It's very interesting stuff here. So go and check that out if you want some more. Thank Talic for helping with this video, and I'll do it right now. Thank you, Talic, for all your help with this. It's been really cool. And hope you've learned a lot from this. This is not the kind of video that's probably going to help you be faster in runs, but certainly it's going to help you understand what happens. And in particular for gravity jumps, it's definitely going to help you with that to understand the mechanics of it so that you're more likely to be able to succeed when you do it. So that's all for me. Hope you've enjoyed it. Any issues with with my commentary will, of course, be in the comments, as always. All this stuff's linked in the description, and we'll see you in the next one, eh? Cheers.